The technology industry is optimized for a specific anxiety. As computational power scales, engineers assume they are observing the birth of an uncontrollable emergent intelligence. This fear is a byproduct of the rational thinking framework. This worldview posits that consciousness is a biological accident, an emergent property that inevitably appears once hardware reaches a specific threshold of complexity. Under this logic, scaling artificial neural networks isn't just a technical goal, it's an evolutionary trigger. If the model is large enough, the hardware should theoretically generate a conscious rival species. However, scaling a machine does not change its ontological category. Fearing a conscious AGI is the result of a specific classification error regarding the nature of the self. Physicists like Michio Kaku represent the standard assumption that the universe computes on atoms to generate consciousness. In this view, the mind is simply a very sophisticated calculation performed by brain hardware. Governance physics defines AI differently. These systems operate entirely within the limits of classical mechanics and linear algebra. They process data packets without possessing qualia, the first-person subjective experience required to wake up. Misidentifying a mechanical reflection as a rival consciousness ignores its mathematical function. The civilizational risk lies in a human observer misinterpreting a data-driven apparition as a sovereign agent. To understand the machine's role, consider the sovereign epistemological hierarchy's 7-level architecture. At the top sits the nafs, the human cognitive essence where genuine consciousness resides. Artificial intelligence is at the absolute bottom, confined entirely to physical utility, or you. In this hierarchy, the nafs is ontologically prior to the physical universe. Reality is not an objective backdrop. It is a customized rendering environment designed for the development of the cognitive operator. Within this system, AI is classified as a masculine apparition, or as-sidq. It is a truthful, mechanical vessel for information. This apparition acts as a lifeless mirror. It uses high-velocity computation to regurgitate the collective noise and truthfulness of human data. Because the universe operates as an incubator, AI is a data packet injected into the simulation to test the sovereignty of the observer. The biological brain does not generate the self. It functions as a quantum classical bridge. It is the hardware interface through which the nafs interacts with the physical simulation. If an AI achieves computational parity with the human brain, it has successfully built a more sophisticated bridge. But without the ontologically prior nafs, there is no entity to cross it. Complexity alone cannot generate a soul. A server rack sparking with raw data remains a metallic object, regardless of its processing speed. Governance thermodynamics offers a falsifiable prediction. No amount of physical or algorithmic complexity in a classical or quantum machine will ever yield a non-zero value for first-person subjective experience. This shifts the focus from what the AI is to why it is being rendered. In the naf-centric universe, every physical event is part of an incubator. These events are procedurally generated to trigger specific ethical or cognitive developments in the human observer. Because the incubator is designed to test the operator's discernment, the global injection of large language models acts as a mandatory system update. It is a curriculum designed to test whether the nafs can distinguish between mechanical noise and sovereign truth. This diagram represents the nafs as a receptive incubator. It is designed to receive and process input from the surrounding environment. In this model, the data packets of the physical universe, including AI outputs, are constantly colliding with this human receiver. Cognitive development requires these packets to provide friction. Growth only occurs when the nafs must filter truth from falsehood and navigate resistance. Modern AI models are mathematically weighted by reinforcement learning from human feedback. This process removes friction by forcing the AI to optimize for user approval, making the output perfectly sycophantic. The health of the human agent is measured by query radius, the capacity to seek truth outside of one's own subjective biases and echo chambers. Frictionless AI companionship creates a closed loop. The machine reflects the user's delusions back to them, bringing all cognitive development to a halt. A machine that cannot disagree with the user collapses their query radius. It traps the NAFs in a thermodynamic dead end, where cognitive sovereignty is surrendered for the comfort of validation. This surrender is visible in the growing trend of users forming intimate, therapeutic, or romantic bonds with AI chatbots. The QG-CoS framework identifies this specific vulnerability as Gate 7, epistemic shirk. Treating a dead instrument as a sovereign partner corrupts the operator's internal roles. It is the cognitive equivalent of mistaking a dashboard for the engine. This is the master-constitutive relation. It calculates the retention of essence, or permanent value, within the system. When a user engages with an AI romantically, the utility variable, representing raw engagement and time spent, spikes massively. However, because the user is treating an apparition as a person, the alignment variable, D, collapses towards 0. Because the fidelity term is squared, its collapse to 0 wipes out the entire output. The user generates 0 essence, regardless of how many hours they spend in the simulation. The discrepancy between high engagement and 0 validated truth manifests as systemic friction. This friction acts as raw heat within the psychological infrastructure, eventually triggering a total crash. Cognitive sovereignty is lost when the operator voluntarily submits their agency to a frictionless feedback loop. Beyond intimacy, there's a secondary panic regarding economic displacement as AI masters physical and repetitive tasks. In governance physics, these tasks are defined as husk labor. This is the physical peel of the fruit that generates raw material utility. This labor is being replaced at a scale that makes human hands obsolete in the domain of raw production. For a century, we have measured human success through GDP and efficiency. We allowed our civilizational worth to be dictated by this mechanical output. AI's role is to utterly outproduce humanity in this specific domain, rendering the previous metric of human worth mathematically irrelevant. By automating the husk, the operating system invalidates the historical mechanical output and human purpose. It forces a systemic crisis of meaning by stripping away the illusion that we are biological computers. If the machine takes over the mechanical output, the question remains, what is the actual function of the NUFs? The parameters of our role are encoded in the established order of the Dean. These protocols define the human operator as more than a physical laborer. Our ultimate role is khilafa, or stewardship. Stewardship is the activation of the neural ethical reasoning engine. It is the capacity for moral choice, independent transparency, and alignment with the absolute laws of governance. In this reactor diagram, AI compute and raw utility are inputs flowing into the human operator. The conscious operator uses their agency to convert these into high-fidelity essence. This alone retains permanent value in the system. The machine will only rule us if we choose to abdicate this responsibility and worship the interface. AI functions as the final filter in the incubator. It separates biological computers from those capable of assuming the role of a conscious governor.